Welcome to ReThink You, bringing you ideas, inspiration, and motivation to start living the life you were created to live. Here is your host, author, trainer, speaker, and coach, and founder of ReThink You, Kim Lovings.
Well, hello, and welcome back to the ReThink You podcast. My name is Kim Lovings, and I'm looking forward to bringing you another great conversation today. But before we do that, I just released something super exciting, well, at least I'm excited about it. On September 1st, I'm launching some free coaching. This will be a live coaching group that meets every Wednesday, and we'll meet via Zoom, but I will also live stream it to the group. You do need to be a member of the group, so head on over to Facebook, look for the ReThink You page and become a follower, and then look for the link to the Kim's coaching class, which is free coaching. What I'll be doing is answering questions that people bring to the table, and we'll work in a small group context every week on a Wednesday. I'm going to limit numbers so that we have a limited number of people that are engaging. So if you want to become a member, head on over and do that. I thought that would be a good opportunity for people, especially if you've never had coaching before and you know that it would be a good thing, but you're not quite sure what you're in for. That would be a great way to take coaching for a test drive and get to know me. I'm offering this free. I tell you why, because I have a passion to help people succeed in their lives. And I want to do this. I want to help you. So if you're struggling with something right now and you think you could benefit from some coaching, and perhaps finances have been a challenge, especially during the post-pandemic season, then go on over to Facebook, find the ReThink You page and look for Kim's coaching, and we'll get you going. And if you can't find any of those links, remember, you can always reach me, kim@rethinkyou.com. And if you're watching the video, make sure you push that subscribe button. Subscribe, like, and review us. We'd love to grow our subscriber base as we bring you messages of hope, joy, inspiration, and just effective life principles and applications every week. So let me tell you about this week's speaker. Today's guest is Stacy Kessler. As a small business strategist, Stacy supports and amplifies women entrepreneurs by helping them discover their unique brand of genius, confidently make decisions, and eliminate the overwhelm so that they can thrive with sanity. Stacy specializes in helping these solopreneurs make sense of their scattered thoughts, ideas, and clarify their business strategy and message, along with creating stellar websites and systems that make their businesses run like a well-oiled machine. In addition to consulting, Stacy also co-hosts a free monthly virtual event for women entrepreneurs called Boss Lady Days. So just looking at that bio, I know this is going to be a great conversation, as Stacy will bring a lot to the table, not just for women, but for men too. Anyone who is in a position of starting their own business, I think you have some nuggets that you will get from this conversation. So let's get started. Well, as I mentioned, we're about to jump into our conversation with Stacy Kessler. Stacy, welcome to the ReThink You podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And, you know, Stacy, many of the listeners at ReThink You come into ReThink You because they come from a place that they know there's something they should be doing in life, but they've maybe lost touch with their self-image or their self-identity. They're not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing. You know, life got in the way. So I'd love to kick off our story today, knowing that you are a coach and a influencer of women entrepreneurs. I'd love you to start with your own story. Tell us a little about your background and how you ended up stepping into what you're doing right now and claiming your own identity.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I always knew that I had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I explored that a lot as a kid with little businesses that I would run and sell to my parents and my neighbors. But when I went to college, despite having an opportunity to start a business with a friend, I decided that no, I want to try the traditional path first. And so I got a traditional job, went to go work for a corporation. And while that work was great and challenging, it just wasn't meaningful or fulfilling to me. So after about 4.5 years, I decided I wanted to leave, but I had literally no idea what I wanted to do. So I explored everything under the sun, from doing the same thing at a different company to making a total career change to starting a nonprofit and to finally living out my entrepreneurial dream. And I finally got the guts to do that. And so the challenge was figuring out what business to start. And I decided to open up a co-working space. The stars kind of aligned, and I thought that combined a lot of passions for me, making really innovative spaces, bringing together community, and supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. But about 6 months into opening our doors, I had a bad business partner breakup, and the business was no longer what I thought I signed up for. Instead of sharing the responsibilities, I was now kind of stuck. And I'm a big believer in living your ideal lifestyle. And for me, that involved a lot of travel, that involved a lot of flexibility to support other people. And so I spent some time experimenting with how could I serve the people that I really want to serve the most, which is entrepreneurs and small businesses. Started doing some experiments and ultimately decided that I wanted to sell my co-working space. I did that at the end of 2018 to focus on being a small business strategist and really supporting women entrepreneurs, which is where I'm at today. And it just is the first time that I feel like I'm really doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm following the path that God set down for me, and that it just feels really great leaning into what I call my unique brand of genius, which we all have, and getting to serve people in a really meaningful and fulfilling way, which was what was missing when I was in the corporate world.
What was your corporate job? What was that first job that you went into?
Yes, I worked at Procter & Gamble, which is a large Fortune 100 company that makes like most of the personal care and home care products in your house, Charbon and Olay and Puffs and all of those things. I was in a category called consumer market knowledge, which was basically market research and a little bit of brand strategy. I continued to do some independent consulting with that when I left, just to kind of pay the bills and help me get the other business started. But that only confirmed that I wanted to serve the smaller businesses and not the giant businesses.
Excellent. And, you mentioned that when you were young, you even got into kind of selling things and making business plans. So do you think that entrepreneurial bent was there from childhood?
Oh yeah. I would I would hand carve stamps out of like potatoes, and I would cut out pieces of paper, and I would stamp. I would make stationery, and I would put Lisa Frank stickers on it, and I would sell stationery. And I would go to my parents and ask, would you pay me if I organized the kitchen cabinets? And I would cut the neighbor's lawn. And I made a restaurant in our basement using the food that my parents paid for, and I would make them buy it from me. So business is really good when you have no operating expenses.
Yes. But how wonderful, how creative of you. And I think, so many times people just dismiss the things that we did in our childhood. And you think, well, that was just silly. I was just a child. And in your case, you actually embraced it. And I love that term that everyone has a unique brand of genius, So what other strengths and values sort of surfaced for you that you feel you've leveraged now in the work that you do?
Absolutely. I realize that I'm a very strategic person. I love thinking through all the options, figuring out the best one. And I have a gift for, I call it the bookend. I can see and figure out what the long-term vision can be, but then I'm really good at diving into the weeds of the details and making sure that when that comes to life, it actually supports and leads to the long-term vision. And so I call that the bookend. I love setting big visions, but I love making sure that it's going to come together, and I can see when there might be a problem in the road and plan and figure out how to avoid that. And I love just thinking about the future and ideating and helping other people tap into their unique brand of genius and what their values are and how to build a life around those that they really love.
Yes. And tell me, did you ever pay your parents back for all the groceries that they funded your business with?
I should. That would be I feel like they would get a kick out of that if I just one day sent them a little check for.
They would say, here's the groceries that I borrowed from you.
Yeah. Business expenses. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I love that idea. I'm totally going to do that.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, kind of reinvest them. But I know that, when people listen to stories like your own and others that I've interviewed, sometimes the misnomer is, well, they're just lucky. That's kind of how they are. I don't have any of those gifts. And life for you was not always a smooth sailing. I always say the road to success is full of ups and downs and pitholes and potholes. Tell us some of the learnings you had along the way, some of the things that didn't go well to getting to where you are now.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest learnings was just learning about myself and figuring out what my unique gifts were and what I really cared about and what I wanted in life so that I could go down the right path and find success and impact and joy in what I was doing. But yeah, so sorry, and I just lost my train of thought.
What I meant was, what sort of setbacks have you gone through in life that have perhaps taught you the greatest lessons, Stacy?
Yeah, so I think, especially for my first business, I learned so many lessons, such as building a business around my ideal lifestyle instead of forming my lifestyle around my business. So what I mean by that is I decided to build a brick and mortar business. And yet one of my favorite things to do was to travel. And when I broke up with my business partner, I now had to run the entire business by myself. And I felt just ultimately stuck, like I didn't sign up for this and I'm not able to live the type of life that I want. And so from that, I learned that I have to be really intentional about building a business model that allows me to do the things that I think I'm really good at, the things that I enjoy in business and in life. And I learned a lot from that partnership as well. I thought I knew him really well, but I did not do enough due diligence to make sure that the people that we partner with are really a good complementary fit for us. And most importantly, that we have the same vision and values for our business and how we want to run that. So despite all these big challenges and a lot of turmoil with working with my landlord and my rent as well, which was really challenging, despite all that turmoil, I learned so much about running a business and what not to do, that only makes me a better strategist to help my clients avoid the same fate. And so when I started this new business as a small business strategist, I was really strategic and intentional about what I was doing. And I made sure that I built a business model that I could love. And I made sure that I was a great financial manager and business manager from the beginning. And I'm much more strategic about the types of collaborations that I take on now.
Right. That's so good, Stacy, because so many times our setbacks and our lessons are in fact become our toolbox to help others. I think that's powerful because, I've seen the same thing that, we don't read people well enough. We don't, I coach a lot of leadership and employers. And I say, when you're getting ready to hire people, sometimes, especially entrepreneurs, are the worst at hiring people because they're so desperate to just get somebody to help them like you. They don't sort of think about, does this person align with what I want to do and can we really work together? So, but, another path to success is becoming really good at or developing your strengths. So, Stacy, talk to us a little about your strengths. I know you've alluded to some of them that you recognized and talk to us about your strategies of how you're actually building on those strengths.
Yeah, such a great question. So I had mentioned that I realized I'm a very strategic person. And so I spent a lot of time kind of testing and learning, what does that actually mean? Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to be a consultant? Do I want to work with large businesses, with small businesses? And knowing that that's something I wanted to work towards, allow me to do some experimentation and then build my skills. So I've been, I think it was 2015 when I started experimenting with working one-on-one with small businesses. And it's just been so much fun to see like, what can I provide for them that's really difficult for them to do by themselves. And we are so close to our own genius that it's really hard to see it because we live with those skills every single day, right? So they seem normal to us. And I struggled with the same thing. And so it took me a really long time to recognize my own skills. And when I did, I realized how big of a need that was for other entrepreneurs. And I realized I had a skill for seeing that in other people. And so I've taken a lot of time to figure out, like, how can I help other people step into their own genius and see that? And with that, just, I love learning and I love optimizing processes and laying out plans. And that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with because they know their own craft and they know what they want to do, but they don't always have the skills to put it into a strategy and a plan. And so I love just coming together with them and helping them see the things that they don't see, make those tough decisions and lay out those plans. So it's been a fun learning journey for me to recognize those own skills in myself, and in turn realize that my skill is helping other people realize their skills and hone in on those skills and build a business around them.
Hi there, it's Kim, and I wanted to just stop by and say I hope that you're enjoying this episode. If you are, please be sure to like, review, and subscribe, whether you're on a podcast feed or the YouTube channel. As you know, putting out media takes time and effort, and we live for subscribers and reviews. So if you think this is a great podcast, please tell the world about us and be sure to subscribe. Thank you. Now let's get back to today's interview. Thank you for that, Stacy, because it's so true that when we don't see our own strengths because they're just our strengths, we don't recognize them as strengths. I think that's an important nugget. And also the fact that you can turn around and help other people build that. And you've alluded to a few times, your earlier businesses, and you mentioned brick and mortar. So besides the workspace, which you've told us about, what else did you do as you were kind of experimenting with options?
Yeah. Well, I had a notebook. I would literally carry around a notebook everywhere. And if I would get an idea, I would write it down. So I had a ton of ideas. And at the end of the day, I was trying to find what was the pattern amongst all of the ideas. But I actually, if I back up a little bit, some other entrepreneurial things that I had been doing prior to when I really opened my first business was when I was in college. I did an independent study on incubators, and I actually decided to open up an incubator for student-run businesses on campus at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And when you look back at that, that's a perfect lead-in to what I did, which was a co-working space. But it took me a while to try and see the patterns in that and where that was actually leading me. And when I knew that I wanted to get out of the co-working business and do more one-on-one consulting, I mentioned that I did some contracting with larger companies, thought maybe if I did it independently, that would be a little bit better. That wasn't my thing. But I also experimented with, could I offer my services in conjunction with my co-working space? So I did a 6-month beta experiment where I invited people in. It was a paid program, but it was every month I would try something different. So I would set up office hours. I would offer group workshops. I would teach different skills. I would coach people, and just really trying to figure out what that business could look like. And the main thing that I was struggling with is the term coach didn't feel totally right to me, and the term consultant didn't feel totally right to me. And until I had heard the word strategist, but it's not a word that's used a lot. Most people say, hey, I want a business coach. But when I read what a strategist really was, and I was like, a light bulb went off. It's like, that's what it is. That's my skill. I'm a strategist. And everything started clicking from there, just understanding the differences between a coach, a consultant, and a strategist, and being able to, now that I could articulate that and had a word for it, more clearly leaning into the type of business that I want to build, which is what I have now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And you said something else, and I like that, by the way, because as a coach and a consultant, I know that a strategist is something very different, and it's about stepping into, as you said, that unique brand of genius. But I love what you also said earlier, that, when you lost your partner, how you ended up so stressed and wound, getting involved in things that were outside of your genius, and you wanted to build a business around your lifestyle rather than having to build your lifestyle around a business. And I think that's a key takeaway, I think, for many, in that we get stuck in what we think life wants us to do. And that actually keeps us from what we're really supposed to be doing. If you can think about it without revealing names, obviously, what sort of clients have you helped get out of that trap of, well, I'm stuck in what I'm doing, but I'm not happy, and how do I get out? Because I can't just quit. And, walk us through the process a little in terms of how you help people through that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of another thing that I had done in the past to try and figure this out, which relates so clearly to this. I learned that I'm really good at writing resumes, and I would help people who wanted to make a career change but didn't think it was possible reframe their resumes for a different career. And that was super interesting to me. These people would come back to me and say, oh my gosh, I got the job. I never thought I could make a career change. And these people said it was one of the best resumes and framing of my skills they'd ever seen. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And that same type of thing applies to people's businesses. We don't have to be stuck. And there is a way to go after what you want. So, Marie Forleo says everything is figure outable. And I do believe that there is a way to do everything. And it just takes some reframing. So I always like to go back to what is their unique brand of genius, like I've been saying, and really hone in on that first. And then say, is what you're doing in or out of alignment of that? And most of the times people can then see for themselves once we identify that unique brand of genius. And sometimes it's a total business shift, but a lot of times it's just a business model shift. They might be doing the right type of work, but they might be doing it with the wrong type of clientele, or in the wrong way, or, with the wrong focus. And so I'll give you an example. I just worked with an interior designer. She had a very lucrative business, but she was drowning. I mean, she was doing 26 different projects at the same time. And it turns out, despite that, she wasn't very profitable, and she definitely wasn't happy, and she was working 24/7. But she loved what she loved interior design. So she also wanted to love her business. And so the challenge was figuring out, how could we actually reframe that business in a way that she enjoyed. And what we did was we just identified different types of clients and different types of projects that were more in line with the type of work that really was in her sweet spot and that she enjoyed, and was more profitable than what she was doing. So it's not always a huge shift. A lot of times it's just the clients and the projects and the business model. And sometimes that does take a bit of experimentation to figure out. And so I think that's why it's super important to build regular rhythms of reflection into our lives, because it is so easy to become complacent and just think that this is the way it's got to be and there's no way out. And I'm in a bit of transition with that right now as well, where I have a business model that I love, but we're experimenting with more frequent travel. And that business model has now become a bit more of a burden. Whereas before it was something I loved, now it feels challenging to fit the vacations and the clients in together. And so actually I'm in the midst, today I'm going to be launching a new way to serve people, just to experiment with it. And I'm going to be doing it on vacation. So we're doing a work/personal vacation for 2 weeks. And so I'm going to be like real time experimenting with a new business model, and we'll see how it goes. But it took me a while to recognize that that's what was going on, that's why I was dissatisfied.
Right. That's fascinating. So you said so much there, Stacy. I mean, your dialogue is so rich with learning that every now and then I want to stop and hit rewind. So just out of curiosity, though, where are you traveling to? Because I'm also a traveler, so I'm always curious about where people are going.
Yes. Well, so normally we're traveling to a national park. We are huge outdoor people, love backpacking and hiking. This trip is a little bit different. My brother-in-law and his wife just had a baby. And so we're making a nice long road trip, and we're going to stop by some cities and some parks along the way, and then visit my family up in Wisconsin. Got it. So this is a bit usual, which is why we're experimenting with that work/ travel, because we're not going to be in the mountains the whole time disconnected. We're actually going to be on the road and in cities where we can be connected and do more work.
Be connected. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And as you said, so many people are in the right business, they just don't have the right strategy in place. So that was a great takeaway. And the fact that you are recognizing these nuggets. And the other thing I wanted to draw attention to is that sometimes we're too slow to recognize that the environment has changed, that either our values have shifted, our needs have changed, and what worked a few years ago is no longer working. And that's okay. That's not a failure. That's an iteration of the strategy. And I think that's a key learning that you've shared here. So if people didn't catch it, I wanted to draw attention to it, because if you keep on trying to do the same old thing, get different results, we all know what happens, right? So I think that's really, really great. And the other comment, the other term I liked was, regular rhythms of reflection. And that plays into, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Glenn Williams of LCP Global, and his whole strategy with leadership is around constant evaluation and reflection, saying, where am I going? What's working? What's not working? And how do I shuffle the pieces around? How do I have a different strategy? So that's so powerful. And so, Stacy, there's so much that I still want to get into, but, as you think about yourself, how would you describe yourself as a person? What's the vision of you? You've mentioned strategy multiple times. So obviously being strategic is a key part of who you are. What other aspects of who you are do you bring to the table, to be your best self?
Yeah. So I think for that, it takes me to the type of impact that I want to have. And I have a vision that, like, I want everyone to be able to contribute to society in a way that feels meaningful and fulfilling to them. And that's one of the key things that drives me. And I do believe that every single one of us has a unique brand of genius, because no two people have the exact same combination of natural gifts, lived experiences, learned skills, things you care about, what you want in life, and how you enjoy working. And so that creates a super unique combination. And I am driven by such a strong belief that is true for everyone. And a lot of people struggle to believe that about themselves. So many of us struggle with imposter syndrome. And so leaning into that myself, and then bringing that encouragement and belief and confidence and excitement to other people is a huge part of what I do as well. And I also am a huge fan of just creating experiences. I love good experiences, and I want to give other people good experiences as well. So that's not only what I do for my clients, but I also help them create amazing client experiences. And just figuring out what's different, what's unique about them, what's their unique take, and then just building something that's totally one of a kind. And so those are some of the things that drive me. I mentioned God before. I'm definitely a Christ believer that follows the path. I consider God my CEO. And so that's another thing that really drives me, is just continually digging in and praying about what is his vision for my life and purpose for my life, and following that path. And who knows where that's going to go. But yeah, so those are kind of some of the things that I regularly bring to the table.
Right. No, that's absolutely wonderful. I know I, for one, as a woman entrepreneur, think, gee, I would, love to spend more time with you. I want to hang out with you more. And I'm pleased that you mentioned the imposter syndrome. And also, people sometimes don't value, or they're afraid of doing what they're doing. And I recently commented to someone that, yes, I'm a coach. I'm kind of in my own little brand of coaching, and my consulting work that I do. And I say, I went through a stage in my journey where I felt, well, why bother? There's so many out there. And I'm like, yeah, well, people didn't stop going to medical school because there's so many doctors around. Each of us brings a different gift mix to the world. Each of us is here for a God-given purpose. So thank you for drawing attention to that. And we all everybody has their unique piece of music that they bring to the orchestra of humanity. And if you don't step into that unique greatness of yours, there's going to be a piece missing in the symphony of the universe, is how I term it.
I love that. So, yeah, because we're all a piece of that puzzle, and you don't want to be that missing piece. You want to fill that role that you're created to fill. So,
yes, no, absolutely. So just some really great stuff. Anything else, as we, I know we still have a few minutes here. Is there anything else in fact, what I wanted to ask you about was your new Boss Lady event. So like so many of us, the pandemic, actually, the benefit was that what we used to do live suddenly became online. So you told me the story before we had gone on air, but, I'd love you to retell it on how this started and what it's all about, because I know that some of the listeners will be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Boss Lady Day, and it's a free monthly event for women entrepreneurs from all over, all different backgrounds and races and businesses. And the idea is to come together to support each other and to lift each other up and walk through this tough journey of entrepreneurship together. And so if I back up many, many years, I felt like I didn't have a community that I belonged to. When I first became an entrepreneur, I struggled to find that community. There was a strong tech startup community in my city, but I didn't feel like I fit into that. And so I was seeking something that didn't exist. And so I decided to try and create my own groups. And over the years, I did a number of different groups through my co-working space and outside my co-working space. And none of them quite stuck. I was experimenting with different formats. And this one is the one that stuck, and it happened so much more organically, whereas I was trying to force the other one. So this one, my good friend and I, we decided to get together to do some annual planning. I think that was at the end of 2019. And we said, hey, let's just see if any other women want to join us. And so we just put out an invite, and a dozen women came, and we spent the day planning for our next year. And all of them were like, we need to do this more. This is what we've been desiring. Like, can we do this? So I talked to my co-working space, the one that bought me, actually, I was still a member there. And they said, yeah, we would love to host you. So come in every month. And we did that for a while until the pandemic hit. And then we decided to take it virtually. And I was definitely hesitant because there's, just a different camaraderie you get in person, but taking it online just became so amazing. We innovated the format in a way that has been really, really powerful. We've been able to invite women from all over the world, from Dubai and the Bahamas and the UK and Canada and Mexico and all over the world. And it's just so fun to learn from these women. And so I'm so glad that we were forced to take it online, because it's just opened up a whole new world for the community.
That's fabulous. I can see you doing more than one a month as that grows. Stacy, how can people find out about it if they want to join or sign up for a Boss Lady Day? Where would they go?
Absolutely. Yeah. The easiest place to go is my website, which is stacykessler.me, STACYKESSLER.me. And under events, there's a link to the Free Women Entrepreneur event.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. So, Stacy, as I said, I've found this conversation delightful. Are there any final points that you'd like to share, or perhaps as people sort of move on with their day, a life lesson that you'd like to leave them with as we close?
I would just say be bold. Go and live the type of life that you want to live, and lean into the type of impact that you think you're supposed to have, and just confidently go after the things that you want, the things that you're called to. I feel like the desires and the passions that we get, and the inklings of inspiration and calling, are not to be ignored. Those are something that we're getting for a reason. And I just encourage everyone to push past that imposter syndrome and push past that feeling of being stuck, like you can't make the change you want to make, and be bold and go after it and do it in your own way, because no one's done it the way that you're going to do it. And that's important. The world needs it.
Right. Wonderful. Stacy, well, thank you so much. This has been such a delight.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim.